Hi everyone, I don't know if you can guess my name. My name's Michael Townsley. I'm the Head of School of Criminology and Criminal Justice. And there I am. That's my best attempt at looking relaxed and cool. I know, I can do better. So welcome. I'd like to begin first by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome everyone to Griffith University. This is CCJ, so the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice Careers Evening. We put this on every year at the Gold Coast and Brisbane, and the purpose of this is for our current students and prospective students to hear from graduates about what employment is like if you've got a criminology degree. So I'd be very interested in who here is isn't yet a Griffith University student. Okay, great. So about maybe a third of you, and then that means the rest of you are our current students, yes? Fantastic. So for prospective students, one of the things about criminology that's really interesting and great is that the possibilities are quite broad for criminology. The bad news is that it's often difficult for students to decide kind of what agency to target and exactly what job they want to go for, because many jobs and many industries or agencies are really appealing. So that's why we put a night on like this, so you can hear directly from people that are in industry and that are a recent graduate. So I'm going to introduce our panel. We've got 4 recent graduates that are currently in agencies in the criminal justice system, and we're going to hear from them. I've got a couple of questions, but you'll have a chance to ask questions as well. The other thing to tell you is, so we're going to have a panel, we're going to have about 30 minutes of Q&A. After that, we're going to move outside, and there are booths with some employers, and you can talk to them about their agencies and what's required to get into their agencies, the recruitment process, but also just day to day what it is like working in their agencies. And so I've got a list. So we've got Queensland Corrective Services, we've got Probation and Parole and the Correctional side, Queensland Police Service, which you'd not be surprised at, Crime Stoppers Queensland, Australian Federal Police, Griffith Careers and Employment are there as well, and our CSS, the Criminology Student Society. For the prospective students, people that aren't Griffith students at the moment, CSS is our student society. They're really a great group of people, and they organise some professional activities and social activities that are extracurricular that we do here at Griffith. So that's their role, but you can talk to them and find out more about them. Before I get to the panel, I just want to talk a little bit. So of the people that aren't Griffith students yet, were you at Open Day this year? Okay, 1 or 2 people. Right, I'm going to use the same jokes that I used in August, so just act surprised. Why does the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice exist? We have a really simple mission, and that mission is to contribute to a safer and more just society. Really simple. And we do that through one of 2 things. Staff in the school, so lecturers like me, we generate new knowledge about crime problems. We do research. We put that out into the field and into industry, and practitioners use that. The second thing that we do is educate future criminal justice professionals, i.e. our students. If we do those 2 things really well, generate new knowledge, educate professionals that are going to go out in the field, we'll have done our job and we'll have a safer and more just society. That's what CCJ is all about. So in terms of if you're contemplating where you want to go, if you want to go to university and where you want to go, if criminology appeals to you, it's my earnest belief that the size of our school, we're the biggest school in Australia, and our industry engagement, we're heavily invested in industry. We know that we want our students to get out into industry, out into the criminal justice system, so we have very strong engagement. Because of those 2 things, I earnestly believe that we can provide more opportunities for students than any other program in Australia. That's the promise from CCJ. So, end of sales pitch, let's get on to our panel. So we have 4 amazing recent graduates that I am going to just asked to introduce himself. So if we start at the end with this end. Let's start with Caitlin. No, sorry, Caitlin, we've got to go here. So maybe if we just go across here, if you just say your name, your organisation, and just a little bit about your current role, please. Yes, if you can use the mics.
Is it on?
I believe it's on. Let's try.
Hi. That's creepy.
I'll go for it. Yeah. I'm just going to do busy work here.
Cool. So my name's Caitlin. I am a strategy officer for the Drug and Alcohol Coordination Unit in the Queensland Police Service. So the Drug and Alcohol Unit kind of oversees the police's stance and response to anything related to drug and alcohol. We do research into new trends linked to drug and alcohol. My specific role involves banning from licensed premises. So if you get a police ban, you can't go to this licensed premise, then yeah, that's me. I audit them, making sure they're all good, because the police do fill them out incorrectly sometimes. I also look at bail bans, so if you go into court and one of your bans is you can't go to that licensed premise, yeah, I see that too. I love my job. It is like the best job I've ever had, basically. The people I work with every day are amazing. I work with coppers and other civilian officers, and they're just the best people. I love them.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Anneliese and I currently work for Probation and Parole. I'm currently located at the Southport District Office. Probation and Parole is responsible for supervising individuals who have been sentenced to community-based supervision. So that may be individuals who have been sentenced in the court at the Southport Magistrates Court or the Brisbane Court, and also those who have been released from custody. So a lot of our work is meeting the individual, assessing their risks and needs, and then ensuring during their supervision that they're complying with their order conditions. So that may be referring on to intervention providers like psychologists or drug and alcohol programs, and as well during that process responding to any risk. It's very much frontline work when we're meeting these people, as well as ensuring community safety. So it is, every day is different. I'm so passionate about what I do. It is wonderful to think that each day when you meet these individuals, you're attempting to encourage them to lead a pro-social life, and hopefully then they finish, I guess, their journey on supervision and then essentially don't reoffend and we don't see them again. That's the best case scenario. But every day is different, and the team that we work with at Southport, along with other district officers, we're so supported. So it's yeah, it's really good.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you.
Now, Tom, I think you win the prize for furthest travel to get here tonight. Is that correct?
Yep. Okay, I'm going to give the mic a whirl. I am not a mic person. So I'm Tom. I'm a child safety officer. So I work in far north Queensland in a remote area in the middle of the sticks. I do love it. There's waterfalls, lakes and everything else. So my job, I work on an ongoing intervention stage. So I work after an IA unit have assessed if the children are in need of protection due to, neglect, sexual abuse, physical abuse, or at risk of physical and emotional abuse. After all that's been assessed, I get the case. So I work with the parents and the children for an ongoing basis to see how long it is required, which can vary from 1 year to 2 years or even longer till they're 18 years of age. So throughout that whole process I'm doing court work, researching, linking in with corrections, police, health, youth justice, every government agency I am linking in with, and running big care team meetings and talking about children and how we can get them home or to family.
And you're talking about all ranges of children, right?
From newborn till 17 and 11 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so
wow.
All the way up.
I work for Queensland Corrective Services as a psychologist at Provisional, and I work at Brisbane Correctional Centre, which is a men's remand and reception centre. So pretty much what that means is people who are coming in from the watch house for the first time into prison, people who have been in the watch house before, been in prison before, all kinds of people coming straight from the community or court into custody. So I'll generally be doing like a risk assessment with them. So they come in, they have to be seen by a certain staff such as nursing, psychologists. So you'll do like a risk assessment on their current suicide, self-harm, obviously, and their mental health concerns. So like if they have any ongoing needs for intervention or therapy or stuff like that, that's what we're looking for. A lot of people who are coming from the watch house are coming off drugs and alcohol. They might have just had a very emotional experience at court, so a lot of elevated presentations, a lot of mental health presentations varying across the board from psychosis, depression, anxiety, just to a little bit of stress. And then from there, we're managing their ongoing risk of suicide, self-harm, their ongoing mental health concerns. At Brisbane Correctional Centre, because we're remand and reception, people who are fully sentenced and are, know they're full-time, they're doing 10 years or whatever they're doing, they generally don't stay with us, so our long-term intervention with them is pretty limited. So they'll move to a placement centre where they then get ongoing help for their mental health or whatever their needs are. So we're really dealing with that real dynamic risk environment. When they're first coming in, they're really elevated, we help them get through that, and then they move on to a placement centre.
So you can see like a real gamut of jobs that we've got here that we can hear about. So you've described what your current roles are, but I'd like to take you back to when you were a student or even just coming into university, what you thought you were going to do, what you thought your career would be like.
I never thought I'd be working for the police, ever. So I kind of fell into the police. I started volunteering, but I never thought I would end up there.
Right, and volunteering is interesting you say that, because that's a route that people often find themselves able to kind of get exposure to a professional network, and that can pay dividends later. Anneliese?
Probably the same for me as well. I was one of the first graduates of the Criminology program that came to the Gold Coast. And for me, prior to that, I'd taken an elective in criminology, and I was like, oh wow, I really genuinely enjoy this subject. So I moved on over to Griffith, and I had such a positive experience. Everybody is such a great community, and you always felt supported. And even though I didn't really know what I wanted to do, I knew that I'd have that support to explore options and how to get there if you wanted to take a placement or not to do student placements, that sort of thing. So for me, once I did finish, I sort of fell into probation and parole, but I definitely couldn't have done it without the skills, I think, that came from Griffith and the tight-knit community that there is here, and how encouraging they are with the student society and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I should have asked, so Caitlin, were you in Brisbane, or you're Brisbane, Gold Coast? Were you?
Central Queensland.
Central.
Oh, no, went for uni.
Yeah, which campus were you?
Mount Gravatt.
Mount Gravatt, okay, Brisbane and
Gold Coast.
Gold Coast, right, so we've got 2 Gold Coast, 2 Brisbane. Okay,
Yep.
Tom.
Well, I moved from Central Queensland down to Brisbane to start with the Queensland Police Service. So in the interim, while I was waiting for a commencement date, I started at Griffith. I was like, oh, I'll do a few subjects, keep myself busy, and I loved it. Did about 2, and then I withdrew from the police and continued my criminology degree, and never looked back. It was the best decision ever. Worked in probation and parole. Did that for about several months, and then after that I moved to Christmas Island in the immigration sector. Lived island life for about a year and enjoyed that, and then fell into child safety. So, Griffith was amazing, and everything Griffith offered and supported and taught just made me the person I am today.
That's really interesting that you actually picked police, and this was just a thing to do, and yet post-university, I appreciate that you're interacting with police now, but you're not in the police.
No.
You actually haven't, maybe the one of those roles was enforcement oriented, but
yeah.
You've had a very different from coming in, your expectations.
To uni when I first started, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be like CSI, I'm going to get handcuffs and fingerprints and, But it was the theories, and then that was something that opened my mind, and I was like, oh no, this is actually different to what I thought it was going to be, and what you learn actually gives perspective in real life.
Yeah, great. Naomi, what about you?
I came in, so I did the double degree Criminology and Psychology. The psychology side for me was just a side interest because I wanted to be a criminal profiler.
Yeah, FBI.
Yeah, classic. But I really soon found out that that job is American-based, very limited Australian jobs. But I also found out that that niche in itself is an extremely valid interest area that feeds into pretty much any job that criminology can get you. So as soon as I did my first unit in theory, I just loved it. Oh my goodness. And then that's where it kind of took off for the psychology side, because that really, really fed into the criminology side. Those two went together so well. I never wanted to be a police officer or anything like that, but I came out the other side thinking I'd actually really like to go into Queensland Police Service. But I thought I'll follow the psychology side and get my accreditation in that first, which is what I'm doing. But now I'm in that job and in that area, in the prison. I get the custodial environment. I love it. It's great. It's so dynamic. You meet a lot of different people and you're working with a lot of different services. So, yeah, and a lot of them are Griffith alumni. So, yeah.
Yes, we've infiltrated most of the agency. Yeah. Okay. Just a warning. So I've got a few questions here, but there is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to ask questions. So if you do, I'll look up every so often, and if you put your hand up, we can throw to you. There's a mic roving around as well. So if you've got any questions, please. There is an opportunity shortly for that. I'd be interested if we stay with Naomi and work this way. Was there a time during your studies that you can reflect on now and thought that was critical for helping me get a job, or not getting a job, but in my current role, I can see what I did back in that second year Intro to Corrections course, that was critical to how I'm operating now?
I think probably 2 points. The first point was when I got snapped out of wanting to be a profiler, and that was in my first semester of my first year. The second point was probably doing, is it called professional practice? Or it is called? Yeah. So doing professional practice, which is the second part of that course is an internship-based course. So I got to go into Southport Domestic Violence Court, and in that, in the actual court, I didn't really like it. But in the actual role and working with those kinds of services and those kinds of people, I really loved that, and that's when I started to get interest more in the corrective side of things, because that's the kind of people that you're dealing with in that environment, very similar to the people that you deal with in QCS as well. So I think, that was a turning point.
Yeah, great. What about you, Tom?
Thanks, Naomi. Stole my course that I was going to talk about. Yep, 3008. Best course ever.
So, should say, for those of you that aren't students or at Griffith at the moment, first year's courses or subjects start with a 1, second year start with a 2, and third year courses start with a 3. Yay, okay.
So professional practice, I was very lucky with 3 other students at the time that Queensland Police were offering internships. They previously weren't. So I got to go to the Child Safety Sexual Crimes Group in Policy and Procedure. Best time ever. The people there were down to earth and taught me a lot, and that kind of showed me that I wanted to go into child protection or join the police to become a CPRU detective. Learning what police do and child safety do at the same time, because they're interconnected to ensure the welfare of children, was very powerful, and that was the course that pretty much made me go where I am, and the internship that I was offered.
Wow, yeah, great. Anneliese, how about you?
I think for me, not necessarily speaking to one specific course or class, but I think overall across the board, with probation and parole, we have a lot of that one-on-one client face-to-face contact, but a lot of that we also have administrative side of things. So obviously with uni, that having to be disciplined to meet them deadlines and to be have that scheduling and to make sure that you're meeting them, that's really helped me now in my current job, where we have to write reports to the court or reports to child safety, and we have to meet them deadlines. So I think that that's something that really helped me. And is one thing that I do regret doing or not doing is this course.
Yeah.
So everything that I've heard of this course, I didn't take the opportunity, and I regret doing that. So I think every time I've heard about it, everybody raves about it. So I'd 100% recommend doing that. Yeah.
And that's something I want to add on to is learning the time frames, like with your assessments, and in the real life you're not going to get extensions. So it was really good to learn that, you know, it's due. You have to get it done, allocate the time management to get what you have to get done. And that's part of uni. And when you'll take them skills into the real life, and when you're researching, and stats, yes, stats, you will use them, and understanding that, yeah, you'll find it boring, but it'll come to light when you get into the real life. But yeah, I just wanted to do that.
Before Caitlin, so I have a PhD in criminology, but my undergrad degree was maths and statistics, and I remember. So I used to teach the. Yeah, no. It's okay. I used to teach the second year stats course up in Brisbane, and I would start the first lecture, say, right, my name's Mike, and I've done a degree in statistics, and yeah, that's right, 3 years of stats, and the looks on people's faces like, oh my god, who is this psycho?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, there are some people that really love stats, but it's so useful, and if you see all the stuff about data science and analytics and everything, it's kind of taking over the world. It's really important to at least understand quantitative methods and how we count things. It's vitally important. Caitlin, what about you?
Sorry, I love stats too, by the way. So I think for me at uni, also I did professional practice. I did my placement at the University of Queensland, but it was with the Research Institute, and it was a policing project. So I got to meet the police who were involved in that project, and that kind of opened my eyes. Because when I was at uni, I thought the police were the people you see on the road and maybe like 100 people at headquarters. I did not know the jobs like mine existed. So I learned so much from them. So I kind of started thinking about it, and they helped me get into the volunteering side of things. Stats, I love stats, and I use stats every single day at my job. I am a numbers person. The other subject that really is helping me at the moment is the law for criminal justice professionals, if it's still around. It was all about legislation. My job also involves writing a lot of legislation and interpreting it, especially at the moment. If you've seen in the news, the Queensland government has just released a massive report into tackling alcohol-fueled violence, which is making my job a hell of a lot busy at the moment, because the government has released a heap of recommendations that directly affects my job right now. So, yeah.
Thank you. Just if there's any questions. All right, fantastic. If we go first at the back and then here at the front.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, aside
There's a mic coming around. It might be easier.
aside from the work that Tom is doing with families, what other avenues to working with families are there with this type of degree?
Oh, this is a question for me. Look,
With the degree, you could do youth justice, so you're still working with families and the children.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what else. Restorative justice. Whoever said that, thank you. Foster care agencies.
Yes, any of the social work.
That's more social working.
Yep.
But yeah, like youth justice.
It may be difficult to say what you can't. There's so many different roles in different agencies. Did you have a question? All right, so if we just get to mine.
So I was wondering, how important is it to get a master's degree in criminology to be able to do whatever profession you want to do?
Well, Tom and I, we don't have a master's degree, but we've just been discussing, we both want to come back and do our masters. because we've been out of the game for 5 years now.
4 or 5 years,
4 or
yeah.
5 years, so we've had a good break of actually working, and we want to get back into some study at the moment.
So it's amazing you said that. My response to anyone that says, oh, should I do a master's degree, is our master's degree program is really designed for people that are professionals, that have been in industry for at least 5 years. So in America, it's a little bit more common for people to go undergrad straight into masters. That's not the case necessarily in Australia, certainly not for criminology. For a field like psychology, that's probably more common because people are trying to get registration, and that's just the thing you've got to do. Good question. I'd be interested in just picking on Naomi and Tom. You both mentioned professional placement, and both of your exposures to me, I'd be interested in your reflections on how some of that would have been quite confronting, I would have thought, for someone in third year. Talk about that, like how much of it was, how prepared were you for that? And then thinking about how did you kind of adopt sort of self-care for not being overwhelmed by those roles?
Yep. Well, before I commenced with the Queensland Police and the Child Safety Sexual Crimes Unit, I had to be psychology at Sydney. I was a psychologist to be fully assessed to make sure I can handle information. So that was a 6-hour session, I think. We just sat and we talked and went through my whole life to make sure everything that I'm going to read in, because I had access to files and what happened to children, that it wasn't going to affect me. So we sat down and got the clear. I think about 4 weeks later we sat down again for just 2-3 hours to make sure I was all good, and before I left we sat down again and had a big old chat about everything that I've seen and witnessed. Throughout that period, my supervisor, who was amazing, we regularly went out for lunch on a Friday, sat down, talked about what I've learned, what I've seen, what I've dealt with. Dr. Bates, Lindell Bates, she checked in during the week as well to make sure I was all good. But yeah, just taking the time, and if there's something was confronting, because I was reading a lot of confronting stuff, to talk to somebody and to talk about what's going on.
Thank you.
Sort of different. Like I didn't have to sit down with a psychologist for 1,000 hours or anything like that.
But I like talking, so that's all good.
Well, we had a 30-minute appointment that blew out.
I think more for me, my placement was quite an administrative placement, but I still had exposure, I guess, in the courtrooms and stuff like that, which is something that I hadn't done before. So even just sitting in and watching that process, you know, it's quite emotional for the people that are sitting in there, and there's some rando in the back, like, watching their lives being torn apart. So that was a little bit like confronting, and I'm sitting there by myself just like, should I get up to go to the toilet in the middle of this, or is that inappropriate? Like, so that kind of etiquette and how watching people hold themselves in that environment, because obviously there's other people in the room, and it was a good learning experience, watching how the other staff conducted themselves around families, around, you know, the accused or victims, or, you know, all those different kinds of people that you come across. That was a good learning experience, and I think, yeah, I wasn't prepared for it, but I was exposed to it. It was good.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So I guess a question aimed at our current students. What would you say if you were able to talk to yourself as a student back when you were studying? What would the one thing that you'd say that you think would be useful advice for you if you could talk to yourself back 5 years ago when you were studying?
I'm going to talk first because you take everything I say. Get involved. Get involved with everything. See, that's why I go first. Make your own thing.
Yeah.
Get involved. I was very lucky when I attended Griffith. I was put forward for a lot of things, a lot of scholarships, leadership programs, homicide conferences, Australian New Zealand Society of Criminology, got to go there and meet a lot of people. So getting involved and making them networks. Because the people that you sit next to today is the people you're going to call for help or get information from one day. Who wants to go next?
So, I wish I had known, it's like, you don't have to be so stressed. things will happen. You will get a job eventually. It may take time, but don't stress. Things will come at the right time. I'm going to represent the Criminology Student Society. Joining that, hi Sophie. Joining that was one of the best decisions I ever did. So before Griffith, I went to UQ for 2 years. I was a small person in a sea of a million people. You felt like you didn't know anybody. But coming to Griffith, people knew you by your name. You knew the staff by their first name. They knew you by, the atmosphere was amazing. The CSS, I loved it. So I was on the committee for 2 years. I was the treasurer. And that really helped me with my networking, get to knowing the staff. They just introduce you to all these other people. So definitely do that.
Fantastic. Great advice.
Look, I don't know what else to add, honestly.
Oh no, I haven't finished talking yet. Yeah, thank you. Mentoring, I've had the best experience. No, I have not finished. Quiet in the room. No, the best experience. I started at 23 at uni, so it's never too late. Mentoring, I was part of the CCJ as well, and mentoring other students. People who are employers look at that for your ability to help other people, and showing that, I've got so many mentoring certificates, it gives you the opportunity to get promoted. So, and just being out there and connected. And there was something else I was going to say about, you're going about don't get stressed and time frames, and uni is what you make it. And it is what you make it, and that's why we want to come back and further, because Griffith has done it for us.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Oh, cool, you can have it.
I do have something to add. On my first, I think it was orientation day, my first time at uni, we were told, network, get to know your lecturers, get to know your tutors, get to know your peers, and I was like, heck no, I'm so anxious, there's no way I'm ever going to talk to anyone. A couple of years later, I eventually started talking to lecturers after going through 2 years of uni with my head down. And that changed everything. Hey, my experience broadened because I was having conversations with people who actually know what they're talking about. And I can't say enough for just getting involved, yes, the CCJ, the mentoring program as well. If you're thinking of your resume as a big whiteboard where you're just adding really meaty bits to it, all that stuff you can do at uni. You can do through the CCJ school. There's a lot of opportunity that you don't actually really have to go very far to get on there, to get that experience and to put it on your resume. Yeah.
Fantastic, great. Anneliese, did you have anything?
No,
you don't.
What is it? No. Look, I think that one of the lecturers was very passionate and very engaging. And one of the things that always stuck with me was get to know who is in your class, network with them, because you will work with them one day. And I can say that I've got a colleague in front of me that we kept in contact after uni, and then surprise, we're working together. So it's just so important to get to know who you're working with, and because you're going to meet them again. Yeah.
Someone said that.
And that's what I wanted to say. If you are a medium grade, I was medium grade. I think I was a 5.4. I didn't have a 7. But them skills, when you go into the workforce, they don't go, oh, you're a 7. They don't care. They do look at your resume and what you've done, your research and your law and your legislation, everything that we need to do our jobs. But you don't have to be a 7. But you've got to have them interpersonal skills and able to adapt to change and different communication styles.
Yeah,
and if you don't have that, that's becomes that.
That's the other thing Caitlin said about UQ. So I actually, when I was in high school, I had a particular turbulent stuff going on in my life, and I didn't do as well as I could have, and couldn't get into UQ. That's where I wanted to go, but I could get into Griffith, and my goal was to do really well for 1 year and then transfer to UQ. And my experience at Griffith blew me away. I was known by my lecturers. They got to know me, and I had friends really quickly, and that wasn't natural for me, and it was a no-brainer to stay at Griffith, and I haven't regretted that at all. Griffith is a very student-centred institution, and I guess this, maybe I wouldn't have had this experience, but I guess that UQI would be just a number. I thought I would get a better experience with Griffith, so it's funny that you kind of had that as well. All right, so I'll throw it open to the audience. We've got recent graduates, so if there's any high school students that are interested in criminology as the degree or what it could take you, this is an ideal opportunity to talk to people. Not talk to a head of school and an administrator, you can talk to someone that's actually done a degree and that's working in the real world. And parents, you can ask questions as well, obviously, and our current students, I'd invite you as well to ask questions. So I'm going to throw it open now.
Which question from online?
Oh, you've got a question from online? Well, we've got one here, but if you tell me the online question, then we'll line you up for next.
Just a big one for Caitlin. Did you have to join the actual police force yourself, or you go around about?
So, I'm a civilian, I'm not a police officer, I'm a civilian worker. You don't have to join the police force. It's just like any other government job basically. So you apply on smart jobs or that sort of thing. Yeah.
It was, I would say, in the, like, I might be wrong here, but like in the 80s, the only people that were civilians in the police would be clerical workers and maybe the chief financial officer, but everyone else was a sworn police officer. That has dramatically
That's
changed.
what I thought during uni. I thought in uni police were the people on the front line you see on the road every day and maybe like 100 people in headquarters. There are hundreds of civilian jobs, project officers, strategy officers. Yes, there's admin. The admins are amazing. You can be directors.
There's a whole IT department for
There's
a
a
start.
whole IT department,
There's people who do intelligence and analysis. They're all civilian. Nearly all of them are civilians. There's people that are forensic accountants that help with financial investigations. They're civilians. There's a whole gamut. It's really this.
It's endless, the number of civilian jobs there are in police.
Yeah. Thank you. So we have a question from online.
That was the question. What are the civilian roles within QPS and AFP? They want to know, do you have to be a sworn police officer?
Are you also on Facebook?
So there we go, we answered it.
There we go. All right, next question. Normally we bribe people to ask questions. Have you? This is, by the way, this is like an auction. If you move your hands, I'm going to. Oh. No, I was teasing her. I was trying to scare her. It was just comic relief. Yes, here, we've got a mic coming.
I don't need this for with the double degree, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but did you find that there were many job aspects with the psych, or was it very narrow in the way of the psychology double?
Do you want me to use this? Okay. If you were to go down the avenue of the psych stuff, there are still a lot of jobs. Like you can work in Queensland Corrective Services with just a psych degree, with just a crim degree, or with the double. You can work in like private practice and like all kind of government agencies. Police have psychs as well. So there's it's across the board. You can work in child protection, social services, all those kinds of things.
And you still have to get accredited before you do that?
No, unless you want to work as a psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to get accredited yet.
That's like the one question I've been asking for so long, so that's awesome.
I was just wondering, for those of you who are actually working with, people who have been doing the wrong thing, I don't want to necessarily label them as criminals, but, those kind of people, what is it like working with them?
Like the people themselves. Everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes. I don't want to say we're here to judge them, but, we are there to judge and assess the situation. But at the end of the day, we've got to remember that they're human, and we all make mistakes as humans. And it's just about correcting or providing support to change behaviour. That's how I would put it, and making sure you're in line with society's social norms. Yep.
I remember the first day that I went to probation and parole, and I was only sitting in a room watching somebody else with a person who had been convicted of an offence, and I was so nervous. But then you get to realise they're human, they have made mistakes, and that's why we're here, to encourage them to make them better decisions, to do that pro-social modelling. I guess the clients that I am working with, you have to be quite resilient in what you do. You might read some police facts relating to sexual offences, and I think that that's why it's so important that the workplace, for me, probation and parole, you will debrief with the people that you're working with, because it can be quite full on. Same with domestic and family violence. That's something that there's a really big focus on at the moment with the magistrates courts in Southport. So I think that it can definitely be confronting some of the things that we see and we read, and when these people aren't always they're not voluntary, they don't always want to be with us, so working with that as well, and working sometimes with that resistance, so it can be interesting, and it can be rewarding, them small wins where you get that clean drug test, or they finish their order and you don't see them again.
Great, thank you. We had a question maybe halfway back.
Just following on from the crim psychology question, did you need to get a master's to practice as a psychologist, or?
No. So I just did I did my 4 years, which is the crim and psych double, and then I did 1 year of honours, and then you can become provisionally registered. You don't have to do a master's, no.
We have 2 there, and then there's right.
Had a murderer. He was amazing. He was so cool. And he was giving me a whole history on drugs. Because I was like, and he told me like,
if you want to get into analytics and policy making, so policy is going to be hard to get straight into. Analytics is easier. There are, so I know about policing. There are police analyst roles advertised routinely, and that would be a viable entry level job to get into. So
I can answer the policy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, do you want to just give the microphone?
In terms of the policy route, it's a step-by-step process. I've worked in Queensland police policy for a number of years. So you would probably start in research, as a research officer or a project officer. Basically, policy is just developing ways of implementing whatever the government policy of the day is. So it's your writing skills, your communication skills, your problem solving and your critical thinking skills. If you've got those, you can take them into any job and eventually apply. Your policy level start at a fairly entry level, and then working right through to the high-end decision making. So that type of background would land your policy.
Great, thank you, Miriam. So we had a question over here.
Just a question for Tom. How you ended up on Christmas Island and what your experiences were like on the island?
I'm not going to talk about too much what was on the island because it is Christmas Island. So I finished up at Probation and Parole, which was a great experience and a great stepping stone to life. Then I applied for a detainee service officer's role. I was supposed to be based in Brisbane, but they were like, okay, we need 4 people from this course to go to Christmas Island. I was like, oh, I've never left Queensland, I'll go. So yeah, I did a 6-week course and was on a plane, and I never knew where Christmas Island was, and yep, went over there, and my first day off the plane, going to work, haven't even got my uniform yet, the place was on fire. It was the day of the riot. I'm like, oh, what's happening? Yep, and there was fire everywhere and people running around with stuff without saying what it is, as we all know what riots are. So I sat at the front, and then, we came back for 4 days. On the 5th day, I could finally go in and get my uniform. And then I was like, oh, where do I start? And the place was burned. There was just nothing. So for the next year throughout that year, we fixed it up to the best we could. And I was very lucky because I had my criminology and criminal justice degree. I was able to get promoted to a detainee service manager over other people who had been there for 10 years because I could show that I could demonstrate research and I made new policies while I was there, and yeah, I had a great time over there. It was very island life. There was none of your Wi-Fi. It was 2G. And the fishing was great. Yeah.
And was that job advertised to you on the QCS intranet?
I'm just trying to remember where I saw that. No, I might have seen that on Seek back in the day. Yeah, I can't remember because I was applying for a lot of jobs after PMP, so yeah. But always look at Smart Jobs, Seek. That's where they're all out.
Hello, I'm a second year student and obviously I'm an international student. So my question is there any pathway to get me to the field after my graduation without a PR?
Oh, permanent residence?
Yeah.
That depends on your employer, I would say.
I can speak to that. Thank you. So when I started with probation and parole, I actually was in the process. I'm from England, so I was in the process of going through that. So I was employed on the basis that I would be applying to be a permanent resident and a citizen, if that makes sense. So I could still be employed for a government role, but I had to then take the steps to apply to become one.
But what if I'm not eligible? Is there any way that?
Oh, so I know that in government roles they will risk manage positions because they are temporary positions or full time. So they'll keep risk managing you till you get your PR. I can't say if you're not granted or granted how that would look, but I know that most managers risk manage that person because they want them to stay in the role. And it just comes down to immigration and visas and all the rest of it.
I would advise, we have a careers and employment booth outside. I would ask them because they may have more knowledge about status and what the graduate rounds are looking for. So I would talk to them. Cheers. Yeah, we got a couple in the middle here, and there's one here. If the mic gets to this person.
I was just wondering if any of you have been in the police force, and if you did, would you recommend it to do any of the stuff that you're doing today? Or have any regrets that you didn't?
Don't judge me. No, I do regret it. I do regret not going. I recently just applied for the AFP this year and I didn't get through. Made it to like the last few stages. I do regret it. Most of my friends are all in the QPS and, hearing what they're doing and where I could be, and we could be Starchy and Hutch running around. No, I do like my career path that I'm on and, going up and the opportunities that I do get with my current employment. So it's 50-50. Caitlin?
So I've never wanted to be in the police force because I can't see myself running around with a gun on my hip every day. But the coppers who I work with are amazing people and I have learned so much from them. So if it's something that you want to do, give it a go. I know one of my best friends applied, he did get knocked back the first time, but he tried again and he got there. But yes, so many people from Griffith I see pop up on the QPS website. I'm like, oh hey, I went to uni with you, that's awesome. Where are you based now? So yeah, definitely give it a go if it's something you really want to do.
Are you one of our students?
Yes.
So there are lots of opportunities that you can talk to police officers on campus, guest lectures, and we have professional activities. So I'd actually approach them and just engage conversation about what it's like, and you will quickly work out whether it is for you. And we've got lots of examples where our current students have been taken under someone's wing, and that has led to opportunities being made available to them. So that's it's a way of try before you buy, if you like. I think we've got time for one more question. We had a few people. Oh, someone's already got the mic, right?
For those of you who did your honours, do you recommend it, and do you think that it helped you get your job that you have now?
Did you do that?
Well, I did honours, but I did psych honours. So yeah, did you guys do your
crim
No.
honours?
I didn't do honours.
No, and I think speaking from like if you were doing your crim honours, it would be a great experience, but it's not necessary for a lot of job roles. So I know people that I work with who have done straight CCJ, are working as like counsellors or correction officers. They didn't do their honours. Some of them have, but I just know, speaking from my area, it's not necessary, but it would be a great experience, especially the research experience. Yeah.
For people that aren't at uni yet, we have our straight CCJ degree is a 3-year degree, coursework. There is a 1-year honours degree that is part coursework, part research, and that's what people are talking about when they say doing an honours degree. It's the traditional pathway into a PhD, but even if you don't do a PhD, it makes you a bit more competitive on the on the marketplace. But it is not required to get a good job. Guys, that's all the time we've got for this Q&A. The panel will be around for a while, so if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, come up the front and you can quiz them. I'm going to invite you shortly to go outside. There's some light refreshments and there's some booths that you can talk to employers. I'd like to thank you for coming tonight, and if you could just thank our panel for their time, please.